Hi everyone, thank you for being here tonight. I want to start off by just giving you a little background information on what sparked my interest to conduct this research. Okay, implicit biases. Whether you or I would like to admit, we all have implicit biases. These affect our behavior, what we like, what we dislike. An implicit bias is a positive or negative mental attitude towards a person, a group, or a thing. And we hold these at an unconscious level. So these are involuntary, and we are not aware that we have these, nor do we have control over them. So what is current research stating in the field of forensic psychology about implicit biases? Well, basically, implicit biases in the courtroom. What researchers have found with the use of the implicit association test is that jurors tend to have implicit biases in the field of racial discrimination. For example, if there is a jury with all white jurors, they're more likely to look unfavorably upon a defendant who is African American. So besides racial discrimination, what I wanted to know is what else about a defendant? What else might make a juror more likely to acquit or convict an individual? So I'm specifically looking at physical appearance or the sound of his or her voice. Now, my research is broken down into two separate studies. The first one being perceptions of criminal behavior based on physical appearance and gender, and then the second one being perceptions of criminal behavior based on voice pitch and gender. And these are some of my hypotheses. For the first study, I hypothesized that attractive males and females will be rated as being less likely to commit a crime and less likely to commit more severe and violent crimes. So if they are rated as committing a crime, it's going to be less severe. And then overall, males will be perceived as being more likely to commit a crime over females. For my second study, I hypothesized that males and females with lower or deeper pitched voices will be perceived as being more likely to commit a crime and then more likely to commit a more severe and violent crime. Now, you may be asking, okay, severity of crime, what does this mean? Well, before I actually conducted my two studies, I had raters previously rate certain crimes. What do you think on a scale of 1 to 6? What is the worst crime? And then what's the least severe crime? And these were the results. The most severe crime, of course, would be homicide. Then you have physical assault and battery, breaking and entering, identity theft, vandalism, and tax evasion. So this is what I mean when I'm talking about severity of crime. The first three are more severe, and then the last three less severe. Okay, so study one, physical appearance. Basically, with my method, there was 135 participants. And this study was conducted at my undergrad at Albright College in Reading, Pennsylvania. And what happened was that there was an online anonymous survey. And on this survey, each participant was shown 40 pictures, 20 males, 20 females. And in each category, 10 were attractive, 10 were unattractive. Now, I myself did not say who was attractive and who was unattractive. Before the study took place, there was another study. Raters previously rated these pictures on what they believed, who was attractive and who was unattractive. Okay, so the 40 pictures were shown, and just a little bit about the pictures. The pictures, it was just a facial image of the males and females, neutral expression. I controlled for ethnicity and age. They were all Caucasian, and the age was 25 to 35 years old. With the females, I made sure that they were not wearing makeup to influence perhaps looking attractive. And then with the males, I made sure they did not have facial hair. For each picture, participants were asked to rate each face, each picture, on two things. One, how likely do you think this individual is to have ever committed a crime? And then two, say this individual did commit a crime. Out of the crimes listed, which crime do you think this individual committed? These are just some examples of the stimuli that were used in my actual survey. The top row would be attractive individuals, then the bottom, unattractive. So as you can see, neutral expression, women barely wearing any makeup, men, no facial hair. And my results. So likewise, with my hypotheses, this hit it directly on target with my hypotheses. Overall, unattractive individuals were perceived as being more likely to commit a crime. It is not shown here, but in the case of gender, males over females were perceived as being more likely to commit a crime. With severity of crime, if you look at gender, overall, males were perceived as committing the more severe and violent crimes. And if you look between attractive and unattractive, the darker columns, the unattractive, way over attractive, unattractive more likely to commit the more severe and violent crimes. So homicide, physical assault, and battery. Okay, this is frequency of crime. I broke down the genders into females and then males. This would be the females. So as you see, the purple, the dark purple columns for attractive females, they were perceived as being more likely to commit the less severe crimes, such as identity theft, tax evasion. Whereas the blue columns, unattractive females, more likely to commit more severe and violent crimes, such as physical assault and battery, breaking and entering, homicide. And then for males, same deal, the blue box, the blue columns, unattractive males, more likely to commit more severe and violent crimes, homicide, physical assault and battery. What I found was interesting is that with the attractive males, as you see, it kind of staggers a little bit. So they were perceived to commit less severe crimes, such as tax evasion, but then, of course, you have your physical assault and battery. So overall, participants just rated males, attractive or unattractive, as being more likely to fight, get into physical altercations. Okay, so then what do these findings mean? Well, my first finding that unattractive individuals are perceived as being more likely to commit crimes, more likely to commit more severe and violent crimes. This finding sheds light on the what is beautiful is good stereotype. This is a stereotype that's been around for a while now, and what this basically states is that as humans, we perceive attractive individuals as being associated with good characteristics. So when we see an attractive individual, we think he or she is reliable, trustworthy, maybe even more approachable, not likely to commit homicide. And then males being perceived as being more likely to commit crimes, more likely to commit more severe and violent crimes. What this finding basically, this sheds light on my finding is that males generally have higher levels of testosterone than females. And research has shown that higher levels of testosterone are linked with higher levels of anger, hostility, more likely to commit violent acts. So with these both linked together, then you can see why males may be perceived as being more likely to engage in physical fighting and more severe and violent crimes because of the high levels of testosterone being linked to higher levels of anger. Okay. Second part of my study, this is the voice pitch study. Just a little bit about my participant background, 91 participants, undergrad at my undergraduate, Albright College in Reading, Pennsylvania. This was an in-person study, and each participant came into my study and listened to 40 voice samples. 20 males, 20 females, 10 in each category had higher pitched voices, 10 had deeper or lower pitched voices. And these voices were taken from previous investigations where the participants did give their consent to use their voices in future studies. So after hearing each voice, they were simply counting from 1 to 10. They were not saying a sentence, just counting. After hearing each voice, participants were asked to rate each voice again on 2 things. How likely do you think this individual is to have ever committed a crime? And then, say this person did commit a crime. Which one of these crimes listed do you think he or she committed? Okay, and then some of my results. Once again, this hit directly on target with my hypotheses. Overall, individuals who had lower pitched voices were perceived as being more likely to commit a crime. And at first, before I started the study, I was thinking, well, I don't know how this is going to end up. Females with higher pitched voice, will they even be perceived as being likely to commit a crime? Well, as my results show, yes, it was very close. I had some feedback from participants after our debriefing session, and even my participants said it sounded as if the higher pitched female voices, they were almost manipulative. So I was happy about those results. But yes, so then and then if you look between gender, of course, male speakers more likely to commit crime. And severity of crime, same deal. Individuals with lower pitched voices more likely to commit the more severe and violent crimes. And then between gender, once again, male speakers more likely to commit more severe and violent crimes. The discussion. So once again, individuals with lower pitched voices are perceived as being more likely to commit a crime and more likely to commit more severe and violent crimes. And what this finding basically shows is that, again, with testosterone, higher levels of testosterone are associated with lower pitched voices in both males and females. And because higher levels of testosterone are related to higher levels of anger, more likely to commit violent acts. This basically sheds light on my findings. And then again, male speakers are perceived as being more likely to commit a crime, more likely to commit a more severe and violent crime. And once again, that can relate to higher levels of testosterone being linked with higher levels of anger and aggression. Okay, so my overall conclusions. Basically, what my both studies have found, that biases regarding one's appearance and voice pitch do influence juror decision making. They can, rendering innocent until proven guilty not a truly valid presumption. When a defendant walks into a courtroom, yes, he or she is innocent until proven guilty, but this might not always be the case, especially if jurors have these implicit biases based on even racial discrimination, or as my studies show, physical appearance, or the sound of his or her voice. Therefore, anything, specifically how a defendant looks, that might conclude that he or she may be found guilty just because of the way he or she looks, or because of the way his or her voice sounds. What does this lead to? It can lead to wrongful convictions. If a defendant really did not commit a crime, but looks a certain way, and you have jurors who have these implicit biases towards the way an individual looks, it might be influencing whether they convict him or her or not. And then last, preferential treatment. Attractive individuals may be given preferential treatment if they do or do not commit a crime. Specifically with celebrities in the news, we may think, oh, they have a lot of money, so of course they're going to get off. They're just going to pay attorneys. Might not always be the case. I mean, maybe the way he or she looks could be influencing the jurors again. Thank you for staying here and listening to my research. I'd be happy to answer any questions. This was for my senior honors thesis at my undergrad. So I conducted it over a year, and I finished it last May, right before I graduated.